So, stream Thierry is one of my personal heroes in the Bevy community because when I was just about to give up building a mobile app in Bevy, I figured that he was actually working on the biggest problem that I had, and that was upgrading one of its central dependencies. And I believe we will hear some bits about that today.
Yeah, we'll see about it. So, hello
The
everybody,
stage
thank
is
you for
yours.
coming, and thanks Stefan for the organization. Um, I'm Thierry Berger, I love open source, and I'm here with you today to tell you a story of a contribution or a few contributions, we'll see. So follow me, let's make things better. Uh, I don't know about you, but I have a dream, and my dream is that different players from different interests, different social circles with different resources, available time, and different, you name it, are able to play together. And let's picture a grandmother playing her favorite match 3 game. She will be able to send her hard-won candy to her grandchild, who then will be able to feed it to their cute little pet in a Crab Life simulator game. And I can hear the grandchild say, "Thanks, Grandma," and I feel their pride swelling from that interaction. So I'm so motivated in that pitch that I started a hobby project with the Bevy engine and using the Bevy EGUI library, which is a bridge to EGUI library, a UI library, you've guessed it. And a central element of that project is an email password input because I want my players to be authenticated. And the project was going smoothly until I hit a problem. I noticed I couldn't input an @ and that's a big problem because every email addresses have an @ so if players can't register, that's a problem. But first, I have to tell you a bit more about my keyboard. I'm French. I use an AZERTY keyboard. So that means to input an @ I have to type Alt then 0. And behind the scenes on Windows, it's actually equivalent to Control and Alt and 0. And that control mapping is important because control can have a lot of capabilities. It can scroll when used with mouse wheel. It can select all when used with A. It can move the cursor with the arrow keys. It can cut, copy, paste. It can even open the task manager, and I don't know, the list goes on. So I opened an issue to discuss it with Bevy EGUI maintainers. And after a long thread of discussion, we eventually, it goes on, okay. We eventually landed a fix. Wow, like one line, really? I think it's really interesting when discussions are way longer than the actual fix. It really shows that communication in software development is very important. So don't hesitate to ask if you have a problem, and eventually everything will make progress. I promise. We merged it. Yeah. So now we fixed our @ sign, right? We can just profit, plug things together, everything will work, right? Not quite yet. That password field was my next difficulty. First, I want to tell you a bit more about my project. I want to support one-time authentication, so users registers to my application. The application backend sends a one-time password to the user, and then the user goes to their email client, copies that one-time password, and into my application and into that password field, right? And on web, on Windows, it's working perfectly. I can copy paste all right. It's good. But on web, you know. Let's rewind a bit. Bevy EGUI uses the library ARboard, which is a good clipboard crate, but it has a synchronous API. And on web, we cannot quite have blocking calls as it would freeze the entire browser. So it's just not allowed. And ARboard desires to stay simple. So that means I can't fix that on ARboard. I can't add that features. And Bevy GUI approached that problem by implementing a local-only clipboard. It's great to have to copy a text from our application into our same application, and that's not enough for my use case because I want my text to come from another application. So time to fix it. First, when I want to study a fix, I check what are my options, documentation of general thing, and I check also how other projects are doing it. Mainly eFrame was a big source of inspiration, which is an official framework for EGUI. And I could quickly have something working on Windows and web by using a JavaScript hook via the WebSys crate to interface with JavaScript. And so I could bypass all the Bevy machinery and get directly the event of copy, cut, and paste and stuff. So that was working fine. Yeah. Oh. Again, a problem. On Mac and web, I noticed that control was not really well implemented because on Mac, a Mac user, they don't control A for select all, they command A. But why am I talking about with you about control or command or select all? It's not related to copy paste. Well, it is because as I'm bypassing the input, my pull request was reacting to command C and command V to copy paste, but then control A is going through the whole Bevy machinery. So we really don't want to support control A for basic input text and then command C, command V. It's not intuitive for users, so it's not acceptable to my standard. So I fixed that by checking for the user agent on web to correctly detect the Macintosh. So that's a lot of things. The state of my story right now is that I have a clipboard fix waiting in review for Bevy EGUI. And I understand that there is a lot of things to be tested. There's QWERTY, there's AZERTY, there is a web, there is a lot of operating systems. So I let it sit in review. Also, the maintainers of Bevy EGUI is Ukrainian, so you can guess he has a lot of other stuff to do. Anyway, I can just target my my pull request and advance on my thing. So let's plug things together. Everything will work, right? Did I tell that already? Yeah, not quite. What is going on? Okay, remember that first fix we did about that @ sign? I tested on Windows, and then at the time I wasn't tested on web. So let's explain a little bit more what it does. Basically, it says if we're hitting Control, it's not a text. It will not do a text. But if we're on Windows and using Control and using Alt, it might be a text. Yeah, I'm not so proud of this fix, but yeah, it works. So it's fine. But, yeah. But then on web, it doesn't work because that target OS is run at compilation time and it doesn't equate to Windows. It's actually WASM32 unknown something. So it's deciding no, it's not typing text. So time to fix it because I try to do things the correct way. It's a different fix, so I opened a different pull request in order to have that isolated. So at first I wasn't too sure about it at the time. Now I know more things, and I hope I explain it more clearly. But at the time, I tried just to remove that check for the platform, and I was pretty confident in it. It was working on Windows and web, so yeah, okay, cool. But then I went the extra mile, and that's a mistake. But we'll see about it. I was like, what about alt code? I'm French. I like E, I like O, I like I like weird characters, and alt plus signs, alt codes help me do that. Especially if I'm on a QWERTY keyboard, I'm able to do that. So a lot of users I know use that. So let's just get rid of that. I don't know. I was a bit confused. And then I looked a bit more in the code, and I saw there is a check like is control. What is this? Well, maybe this whole if is not necessary. So let's get just rid of that. Yeah, you guessed it at the time. I think in hindsight, I was a little bit burnt out, and that was me at the time. Yeah. So I decided I had to take a step back and just reflect, not reflection, but think about how things were working really upstream. So I looked at the Winit crate, which is a Bevy backend for handling windowing and raw inputs. And I noticed that Winit did a giant refactor of the keyboard inputs and also a lot of other little fixes here and there and there and there. So I was like, that's intimidating. If they do a big giant refactor, will I have to go through all that again? So I thought, let's update Winit. Okay, in open source, mistakes happen. I'm doing this by my spare time, so I think I wasn't too thinking clearly. But anyway, Winit update is useful anyway, so let's update Winit. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I had to track Bevy main branch as well as Winit main branch, both getting new commits every day. So I had to have a plan. The risk was getting upstream bugs, incompatible changes, and resolving conflicts regularly. So I had to have a strong plan. First, I would update the dependencies at the minimum level, like get everything compiled first, and then everything to work, and then I could profit. So first thing first, when doing a dependency update, is to research your subject, check the documentation, check the change logs, check the issues, the pull requests, the chat with relevant experts. I was actually updating to main, so that's why I couldn't just refer to documentation. I had to forage through the source code and stuff. A first task I did when I was confident and rolled up my sleeves to dive into the code was to update a lot of enum names, and I am very thankful that my IDE support for regex capturing in search and replace. Then another task I did was to update a lot of dependencies. As you can see, there was a bunch, and I'd like to focus on a particular one, raw window handle. So that's a crate to provide a common interface for handling windowing. And as you can see, most of our dependencies updated already on their main branch or published crate to raw window handle version 6, but WGPY, I won't go into detail yet, but it's a dependency which wasn't updated. And I felt adding that, I felt fixing or helping WGPU to update or tracking WGPU main would be too much of a time sink. I had already two main branch to track, so yeah. And that's a problem because on Bevy, we use cargo deny, which helps us prevent from using a few duplicate dependencies. And if you use cargo tree, it's very helpful to make sense of how dependencies are laid out. Anyway, that meant I had to use raw window handle version 0.5. It's quite interesting how Winit or raw window handle ecosystem handled that. By using cargo features, you can opt in any raw window handle version you want and get your dependency tree consistent on the same version. I had to work with a few dependencies, but everyone was very reactive. So eventually, my pull request was satisfying Bevy continuous integration suite. So now we can profit, right? Not quite yet. The Winit update impacts a lot of things. So a lot of configuration, hardware, use cases have to be tested. And unfortunately, I don't have every configuration and limited time. So I reached out to Bevy Discord for help. Like, hey, my pull request is nearing completion. Can you help me test it and review it, please? And thank you to all reviewers and everyone who chimed in. It was very helpful. If you want to get involved in Bevy, it's a great way to go and check the pull requests. And eventually, now the Winit was merged just recently. So yeah. So now we can profit, right? Not quite yet, again. When doing any work, I like to focus on the objective, even if that means taking shortcuts. So to merge this pull request in a decent amount of time, I had to take a few shortcuts, and I noted them all as faithfully as I could in a follow-up issue. And you can see there is a lot of stuff to be done yet. Personally, I think I will step back on a more observer role or something until things settle a bit, mostly in my brain. Yeah, so now where are we on my application, on my dream? I fixed a lot of things. We implemented cut, copy, and paste via JavaScript events. We detected map on the web via user agent to correctly support command or control depending on the underlying platform. We even updated Winit. So is it fixed yet? Not quite yet. I have limited time, so it's not there yet, but I'm confident next time we talk, I will tell you how everything works. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I'd like to emphasize just that communication is a very central piece of in software development. So yeah, that's it. That's my conclusion.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thierry. Thanks, Thierry. So speaking of communication, we have a bunch of questions for you. First of all, what could the Bevy team and community do to make contributions like yours less friction?
I feel like I didn't have much friction, but we need a review team. Like, well, that's my answer. We need a review team, and yeah.
What's going to be the role of the review team? Is it that
To
we are
make
just
sure
having too much stuff hanging in in review?
It's triage.
Okay.
Triage. Alice does a wonderful job by making this public with the main merge train on Monday. That's great, and yeah, I think a lot of people, including me, are a bit intimidating by going into review. So yeah, if you want to have one conclusion, it's go review. You can do it, be it experts or newcomers. Everyone can review, and it's very helpful to the contributor, but also the reviewers and also future readers, as all can learn from that interaction.
Maybe we should encourage Chris to do more code review of PRs in his streams.
Yeah, for sure. A video of a code review.
And do you have any ideas how we in both the Rust and Bevy ecosystem can reduce or manage hardware and OS specific bugs like yours better?
That's a tough question. No.
I mean, are these things that we could at least test in a CI so that it doesn't break eventually again?
Yeah, well, Bevy, yeah, the main objective is to test on hardware directly, and Bevy does that already on a few hardware, but it's very intricate. At least in my mind, it's very intricate and very hard to test. But there is work on that, and we're working closely with Winit team to make that advance. Yeah.
Okay, and what do you believe are the weakest areas of Bevy for small games and for large games? As you discussed now, issues that you had with keyboard and clipboard, have you already seen other things?
Yeah, first of all, I think Bevy is a very strong foundation, but it lacks the commercial interest. Like the big giants, Unity, Godot starting, well, Godot is already quite here. Bevy doesn't have the big giants providing the maturity and the experience of it, and that's what is lacking. And we can feel. I have another project on my website talking about how to integrate ads, and that's where the monetization is coming from for a lot of games. I'm working on game dev using ads our main revenue. So I think, yeah, just professional and commercial and monetary solutions are not quite there yet, but it's normal. It's just very young engine. So yeah, I hope I will be working on that to bring Bevy to the next level.
Me too, for sure. Okay, last question. Such recursion of crates you had to turtle down, do we need to internalize more dependencies into Bevy itself?
I'm in no position to answer that, but
if you were,
if I were, I would be a bit reluctant to do that and prefer working with upstream as much as I can, because it encourages everyone to do it. And also, a big strength of Bevy is that it's very modular. So I talk a lot about Winit, but we can very well replace Winit by another backend. And bringing in crates directly into Bevy might be a chance of erasing all the other possibilities. So yeah, that's my answer.
Gotcha. Thierry, thank you so much for your talk and your work
Thank you.
in the community. And I'm happy to see more, especially those mentioned crates coming for monetization to professionalize their usage on mobile.
Next talk. Thank you.
Exactly.
See you.
Bye, Thierry.